I wanted to make this video a long time ago, and it'll be entitled "The News Equals Fast Food." I know people be tripping on the title, or whatever. But I always use this analogy, like Americans are dumb. I think there's a lot of social programming, a lot of things this government are planning in the near future. I think with all the killing of unarmed black dudes and these so-called black dudes shooting the police and all that kind of shit, they're building up something, and it can't be good for us black folks. See, America has always strived on creating, white America, on creating a boogeyman to accomplish their goals. And you want to know who the first boogeyman was or is? First, it was the Native Americans, then the black man. It's always been the black man from pretty much that point on. Like, back in the day when America was coming, the white America was coming into its nationhood, the boogeyman was the Native American who was called a savage, and he was called a savage, and they would pay money to find the scalp of an Indian, or that was their way of vilifying the Native American in order to get people comfortable with killing them, killing their families, stealing their land. And that was what, and then after they accomplished their goals with them, like killing them, taking their land and everything, putting them on reservations and all that kind of stuff. They had the cowboy movies where the Indians were the bad guys, the white guys were the good guys, that kind of shit. And the black dude was the same way. The black guy was the savage. He was the rapist of the white women, and that was the image. Even though white guys were fucking black women and raping black women and fucking black women and all that kind of shit back in the day, the white guys were the ones hanging black people from trees and terrorizing black people. But the black guy was the bad guy. Well, that's what they're doing now. They've always done that. In recent times, it was the Arabs, the Muslims. They were the bad guys, even though we were going over there. We're going over there attacking them, killing their people, stealing their oil, taking their land. The white people, that's what they've always done. See, Americans are dumb in the sense that they think they're educated because they watch the news, the 7 o'clock news, 11 o'clock news, whatever. The news is no different from fast food. Like when you go to a fast food restaurant, you order you a hamburger and French fries or whatnot. You don't know what goes on in fast food restaurants. You don't know if the person who made your hamburger, you don't know if he was digging up his nose, or they dropped the burger patty on the floor. You don't know what they did because you're not making the food. You're not there watching them make the food. Not only that, you don't know where that patty been before they even got to the stove to cook it. So you don't know what you're getting when you go to fast food restaurants. The same can be applied to the news. You don't know if what they're saying or telling you is true because you weren't there. And you don't know, and let's say what they're saying is true, you don't know if the perspective that they're giving you is the truth. You see what I'm saying? Like, you don't know if the perspective they're giving you is one where they're trying to get you to believe a certain way. So they might leave out certain shit that might make you think of the situation in an entirely different way. You see what I'm saying? Like the war in Iraq. We ended up in Iraq. Like, how did we end up in Iraq when the so-called guys who hit 9/11 were Saddam Hussein? Osama bin Laden, supposedly. So how did you end up in Iraq? It was oil. The whole so-called war on terror is really a war about controlling someone else's resources. So you got to look at the pattern of white people. Like, take Africa for an example. Africa got fucked up when the white people came there, stole huge tracts of land, pushed people off of their land, and stole their resources. Right? That's what happened. That's what fucked up Africa. And now all of a sudden Africa is poor and this and that. You see what I'm saying? And they wage these so-called campaigns to feed the hungry in Africa, this or that in Africa. Even though African diamonds is what making Europeans rich for decades. You see what I'm saying? That's the Jedi mind trick that they play with us. See, I've researched this type of shit because I was always interested in black people and black history and all that shit. And since I was like a young kid, and a lot of times you have to put it's like getting a piece of a puzzle. And once you put it together, you come to the conclusions that I have come to. This is what has went on. And see, they use the media. The media is what butters up people's mind to be comfortable with what's coming next. Like, okay, the war in Iraq is a great example because the media first start talking about weapons of mass destruction, weapons of mass destruction. Saddam Hussein is dangerous. Weapons of mass destruction, weapons of mass destruction. Even though we had no proof that he was dangerous to us. See what I'm saying? So that made people comfortable with going to Iraq, to supporting it, and the killing of a lot of innocent people. See, it's all about imperialism with white people. And that's how it's always been. And the media is a powerful tool to accomplish their goals, you see. I don't watch the news because it's hard to decipher what's true and what's untrue. I'm talking about in the larger political type shit. And even when it comes to the black people's image, that that's true too because I was watching the news the other day and they was talking about a guy who suspected of burning down his house while his daughter was in it. His young daughter was in it, and she ended up dying. And I think the guy was white. I'm pretty sure the guy was white because his neighbors were all white and everything like that. They would show them speaking, and I was like, damn, why didn't they show his face? And the very next story they told was about a black guy who was suspected of murder. And there his face was, loud and clear, for everyone to see. And I heard people talk about them not showing white people's faces and showing black people's faces on the news. And that was just confirmation for me. And that shit affects you psychologically, and it makes you look at certain people a certain way. It's just like people will look at, oh, black people commit the most crimes, or black people are the most violent. That is the biggest Jedi mind trick joke ever. If you study white people and what they're doing and what they have done, you'll come to the conclusion that they are the most violent people on this planet.